everybody, it's EK from EK Gorman Designs, and I am sneaking in here today to share a Oddball Art Copic coloring video where I actually take two different digital stamps and I slam them together to make one image. I took this week's Creepy Cute Chronicles? Wow, brain fart. I took their weekly freebie, the CCC41, and I took Nelly and her Nymphs, image 369, and I actually spliced them together. Now, I will tell you, this looks really fuzzy and funny. I'm out of printer ink. Like, my printer ink is just dying. So, once like my ink gets to a certain level, it prints out in this weird grayscale, which is actually fun because I can do some kind of no-line coloring. It's not super no-line, it's just pseudo no-line, and it works well. I'm using this combination of digital stamps today actually in tribute for Oddball Art's owner, Lizzie. She has recently had to say goodbye to her beloved kitty of many, many, many years, her kitty Punky. And this week's digital art was for her kitty. So the CCC41 is this skeletal kitty, and I thought it might be really nice to have her kitty looking over the Rainbow Bridge back at Lizzie herself and just saying goodbye and waiting simultaneously. I like to think that when we lose our pets and they go over the Rainbow Bridge, that they sit there waiting for us. Cats maybe not so much as, I really think dogs do that. Cats, I'm sure, take a nap and they're like, oh, you're here. Food, please. But I like to think that somewhere Lizzie's cat is waiting for her to come pet her once again. So I am creating this card specifically for my friend and the owner of Oddball Art, because as anybody who's had pets knows, it's never easy to say goodbye to them. When I take two different digital stamps, I pull up some software. I use the PNG format so that they can layer over one another, and then I just kind of play with the sizes until I get them lined up how I want. So I pulled the kitty image into the front and let the rainbow image slide into the back, and was able to literally take two images and make them look like one. I do think the cat at times looks like it has a blue beard instead of a cloud. If I could go back and reprint this, I would, but you know, it's the little things in life. I probably should have done this image in my using my colored pencils, just because everything is so fine and small, but time was a little bit of an essence this week, and I color faster with my Copics than I do with my colored pencils, so you're getting a Copic color video. I'm not doing anything special or fun yet with my Copics. I'm just laying color. I will tell you, where I used color once, I used it again, with the exception of my blues. I have one shade of blue for the clouds, and then you will see me bring in a shade of blue for Lizzie's eyes and her t-shirt, and then I bring in two more collection of blues for the background. I wanted the blues to really stand out in this image, so I used a variety of tones and values of blue to create the card, because that overwhelming blue feeling is the emotion I wanted to portray, and I used color to help me get there. I think color is a wonderful way to portray emotion, especially when you're dealing with something so small and simple like a card. If you use color, like if you want to portray, that's why when we make Valentine's Day cards, we use lots of pinks and red, because we all kind of associate those warm tones with love. It's why if I make an angry card, I use reds and blacks, because those two colors make things seem angry. And in this case, I wanted things to feel sad but hopeful, and I think blue tones will do that. I did make a mistake when coloring the gal here. Lizzie's a blonde, and I pulled out my browns and didn't think about it until after I was done. I was really just wanting to play with a new combination of brown markers. Here I'm using the E39, the E29, and the E79 to see if I got a nice layering of browns that had really great highlights in them. I've been working on my hair coloring. I do not like when I leave white spots in hair, because while hair does reflect light, and there are certain places in hair that is lighter, Dark hair is never actually white in a reflection. It's just lighter. It's blonder. It's redder. It's fill in the blanker. But it's not an absence of color. So I've been really trying to figure out how to have great highlights in hair without using white. So this brown combination was one I wanted to play with. Now you'll notice in the rainbow I'm not doing anything special. I'm just trying to get some really desaturated colors that pop in edges. So you know it's green, you know it's red, you know it's purple. It's hard to make a rainbow when you don't get to use the 7 colors. It's always like that great debate of which colors do I use. And in this case, I thought if I used the 2 end colors and then the most middle one, we would all know it's a rainbow. I'm finishing up with the small details. I made a conscious decision to color the nymphs in the little balls of fluff in it last, just in case I messed up. I wanted them to be light, but if I accidentally got blue color into it, then I wanted to have the ability to color them a much darker color. So it was like, okay, I'll just hold off to the end and we'll see how it goes. Here is where I said I brought in 2 different tones of blue for the background. Here's one of them. I used the collection of B60s because they're almost purpley blue. They've got a real lavender tone to them. And that seemed heaven-esque. That it's almost angelic. Now I will say, I haven't used some of my blue markers in a long time. They were really dry. And this case, I went in to start coloring with the B60, and I was like, wow, this is. If you're new to alcohol markers, the juicier the marker, the better the blend. When your markers start to get dry, it's really hard to get the colors to blend because you're working it. You're overworking it. So yeah, had to refill my B60 to get everything blended out nicely. For the space between the kitty and the girl, I wanted it almost like a night space sky because, you know, they're looking between where heaven would be and where earth would be. So I pulled out my collection of B30s, which is the 39, 37, 34, 32. It's probably my favorite midnight colors. And I started fading in. I knew I wanted the darkest colors around the images and around the edges of the card, and then I would blend in to the vacant spots. So it's a little differently how than I would normally do space. I wanted the darkest feelings to be around the images and the lightest ones to be where there was nothing focal. And I just kind of went to town coloring. And once again, I had to refill my marker. Why do I tell you this? Because you'll notice there's a big difference between how the marker was working and how the marker is now working. When I start with a dry marker, it just doesn't work as well. So when I refill it, there's such a noticeable difference that I figured, being honest, that I don't do marker maintenance like I should. And sometimes my markers are dry and I'm like, I'll color them when I get a chance. On the note of my markers, I've had a couple people ask me recently why I have banded washi tape around the edges of my markers. It's actually to remind me which one I have refills for. So you'll notice sometimes my markers don't have these little bands of tape. It's because I don't have refills for them yet. And mainly I ordered oh yeah, I did it again. This is the last time though. This is the last time I had to refill a marker. But see how much better it works now? Look at it. It's now blending. I've sped this up to like 6 times as fast as I normally color. So I apologize for the wiggles in it, but nobody wants to watch me fill in blank spaces. I don't want to watch me fill in blank. If you want to watch me fill in blank spaces, great. I don't want to talk over it. But there we go. There's the night sky. Now, it's blotchy and questionable at best. I fix that, and I fix it with one really simple technique. If you break up the pattern with something, suddenly the color works. And to break up this pattern, I used my sparkle gel pen. And again, I've sped this up to, I think, 600. Like, it's 6 times as fast as I normally would do it. But I filled the whole thing with sparkly little, I don't know, I didn't want to call them stars. It was like the magical dust of the universe. yes, I'm going poetically weird. But I wanted it to be, it's got shine, it's got reflection, it's got sparkle. And then I realized I really wanted to go with sparkle. So I pulled out this blue sparkle paper. Yes, I made a 6x6 card. And I ended up deciding to trim the paper down just a little bit less than 6 inches. And I adhered it to a dark navy 6x6 inch base. So that way you could see a little bit of the dark navy paper. You got a lot of this lovely blue sparkle. And yeah, this is not, I've had this sparkle paper forever. It's not the greatest sparkle paper. It sheds glitter. So whoever receives this, I'm sorry, you're going to get some glitter. But look how fun that looks. It's all kinds of, like, it's sad, but it's still sparkly. I finished the card off with "Together is the best place to be," because I thought after losing a pet, it's nice to remember that, like, while your heart hurts, like, yeah. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed my coloring video. If you get a chance, send some love out to Lizzie because she is sad and we're all trying to support her in this time of change. And thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.